I just want to ask if there's a type of attorney that represents little toddler children like that.
Well, that's a very good question. It's kind of a very gray area that's always leaned to the right of people being conservative or the courts being conservative. The way it is administrated here in California is you can't hire an attorney for your child in a juvenile dependency proceeding, especially where, there are allegations of abuse against you or the father. Now, in California, every county has an organization that hires attorneys to just represent children. Now, many years ago, when I was a court-appointed attorney, we would represent children and parents and relatives, and we would see the full spectrum of, the case.
Oh my God.
One of the things that happens, that I've noticed over these couple of decades is that children's attorneys tend to be very conservative because they want to make sure the child is not hurt. When I was, representing children and the group of attorneys that were representing children 25 years ago or more, the first thing we wanted to do was to make sure that the child was with the parents or a relative. Grandma and grandpa were always a good fit, good solution for me. I was raised by my grandparents, so I naturally thought that. But unfortunately, these days, you can't hire an attorney for your child. You have to go with the attorney that is appointed by the court. In each court,
Wow, I can't believe that.
And each court has its own group of attorneys that they use, that they hire and appoint to represent the children. Now, there are a lot of problems. There are some good things about that. Let me say that initially. But there are a lot of problems. There is a couple of organizations around California that are big in, representing children. The one that they use here in Los Angeles is called the CLC, Children's Legal Services, or Children's Law Center, something like that, I forget. But they're a group of attorneys that represent mostly or only children, and, they're very experienced, highly educated. The woman who runs that organization, I think statewide, I can't remember her name, but, she's been around a long time, and, she knows what she's doing, in my opinion. But sometimes you get, not sometimes, a lot of times you get children's attorneys who, join sides with the social worker. And unfortunately, that just adds another adversary to the parent's attorney trying to get the child back in home or back with a relative. I would say a lot of the Los Angeles children's attorneys, most of them are very relative-oriented, but they're always concerned about the parent and what might happen if the child is released back to the parent. And a lot of judges take, as the judge should, take the opinion and advice of the child, of the children's lawyer to heart, and listens to their arguments very carefully. So I hope that answers your question. Thank you for listening.
Yes, it does.
And thank you for calling in. Let's take our next call from Catherine from Los Angeles. Catherine, did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Vincent, this is Catherine. We've done a couple radio shows together.
Hey, Catherine, how are you?
I'm good, but you seem like the perfect person for me to call and ask a question.
Sure.
So, as you know, I'm a child custody and divorce coach, so I'm dealing with what I call an epidemic of false allegations in family law.
Mm-hmm.
So my thought process was, because so many divorces involve false allegations, is it possible to retain an attorney for the children? Not a DCS case. This would be for if the police or social services go to the school or other location to interview the children. that they could not be interviewed until their attorney was present, and maybe even a mental health professional. And there's two parts to the question. And the reason for that is because, as you know, so many stories, headlines have come out of social services about social workers not being truthful in reports, information not being translated well or correctly from what the child says to what's reported.
Mm-hmm.
So having an attorney for the children ensures that the children's story is properly recorded. It puts an extra layer of protection upon being assured of a valuable and accurate report, and also that, you know, there's someone there that can test, you know, can say that's not what the child said when they view the report.
Right.
So
now,
what are your, again, this would all be before DCS is involved. It's all about protecting the children, making sure the process follows the law, is not traumatic, and the attorney may even bring a mental health professional with you.
I would have to say that you probably could do it if there was no case that already has been implemented. If a family law case has already been started and, you know, there's been issues regarding custody and visitation, if you get an attorney for a child, I'm sure that that person is going to have to be approved by the judge or the court. And in Los Angeles County, as in most counties, they have a panel of attorneys who represent children. And, you know, they're all across the board, just like any other attorney. So I think it depends on where the family law case is. Now, if there's no family law case, you know, and there's no judge, I think you're on solid ground on getting the child an attorney, and, you know, maybe even video recording or tape recording the interview, because, you know, so many of these false allegations come up, and, you know, I just don't see how you can protect yourself or protect all the parties, you know, in those types of family law cases. Catherine, we have to take our first break. I want to thank you for calling and thank you for listening. This is The Secret.
And good luck with the show there.
Thank you. This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. And I'd like to remind everyone you can catch this on Facebook Live at our Facebook page, The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. I got a message on Facebook Live from someone named Rita. Rita, just give me a call at the office. You can actually somebody be taking messages tomorrow after, I think, 12 o'clock. The office number is 888-888-6582. And you can also email me at v.davis@vincentwdavis.com. All right, let's take our next call. It will be Oscar from Long Beach. Oscar, did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Hi, how you doing, Mr. Davis? Actually, I have a little bit of both. We're going through my children's mother and I are going through an incident right now.
Mm-hmm.
Actually, mom was granted physical custody in October against the social worker's recommendation. So on the last of this month, or on the first of this month, the social worker filed for removal, and my children's mother was served with a removal order on the 2nd of this month.
Mm-hmm.
And she placed the children in the home with the maternal aunt, and my children's mother was forced to move out.
Okay.
And the social worker told her that she could go visit the children, but when she went, her sister didn't allow her, and her sister said that the social worker told her that if she allowed her to visit, that she was going to put her in jail.
Hmm.
So my children they then got moved to I guess a maternal great aunt, like around the 6th, and then they got moved again to foster care on the 7th.
Mm-hmm.
So the detention hearing was like a whole 7 days later after the removal, and right now we have like no clue where our children are at. Like, you know, our social worker is not letting us know like where we can have a visit or, you know, or over the phone visit because of this, you know, whole pandemic thing going on.
Right.
And
well, Oscar, let me interrupt you for a second. If you're not getting visits and that's the problem, you need to contact your attorney via phone and or email so that they can help you immediately, get your visitation.
Yeah, I think it was because of, the detention hearing was held on Thursday.
Mm-hmm.
So, social worker claimed okay, well, I still haven't received the court orders and this and that. And then the weekend, got here. And
I find that hard to believe.
We're kind of used to dealing with little, underhanded, maneuvers by her.
What office is she from?
Lakewood.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Oscar, you need to call and email your attorney so that he or she can help you get your visitation, which is court ordered. Okay?
Right. And as far as her having moved my children so consistently, this is gonna be it's been three placements, and from what we heard, it's there's another one coming up again.
Well, your attorney can find out all the details about this.
Right.
I don't know, and in some situations, the relatives who are losing the child can also go to court and fight to keep the children in their custody. So you should also talk to your attorney about that. I wouldn't try to talk to the social worker about this. I'm not a big fan of parents talking to social workers, and here's the reason why. Social workers routinely give out information that's not correct. And I don't know if they do that intentionally or they do that because they just don't know. But people tell me all the time bizarre things that social workers say, and sometimes they say it in a text, and I just, I can't believe that the social worker is saying that. So when you talk to a social worker and you get some information, and then you talk to your lawyer and you get different information, there's going to be a problem. That's why I say, hey, don't even talk to the social worker. Just talk to your attorney. Email them and or call them. Okay, Oscar?
Yeah, actually, that's what we did, because when we found out that she was trying to place our children with the maternal great aunt, she had my first child for about a year when this case first started, and when my son Oscar came back, we noticed just a lot of things were wrong with him. It's it was obvious that he had been he had suffered neglect and different kinds of abuse. But when we bring these issues up to the social worker, it never gets us anywhere. And I've tried going up the chain of command and
no, don't do that. It's a waste of time. It's not going to work. Talk to your attorney. There is a provision in the Welfare and Institutions Code where you can make a motion to change social workers. You're not stuck with the social worker. Okay?
Right. And what is that provision called again?
It's a motion to change social workers because of, for example, you feel that the social worker has been prejudiced against you, discriminating against you, is not professional, has done some things that are not accurate or correct. You know, so you can make that motion, and your attorney will know the exact section. I'm sorry, I don't know it, but you might try to Google it. It's in the Welfare and Institutions Code. Motion to change.
Yeah.
Just Google Welfare and Institutions Code, motion to change social workers, and I bet it will pop up. Hey, Oscar, thank you for calling, and thank you for listening. Okay, let's take our next call. Lynn. Let's talk to Lynn from San Bernardino. Lynn, this is Attorney Vince Davis. Did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Kind of a little bit of both. I'm going through a situation with my grandkids. They were taken out the home from their parents. And now my daughter's expecting another baby. And my concern is, will they take this child because the other two were already taken? I'm also having problems with the social worker not getting back to me or misquoting things, not putting everything in the proper in the paperwork.
Mm-hmm.
She's leaving a lot of things out.
Not
and
unusual.
It's concerning me because I'm trying to figure out what I can do to get my guardianship of my next born grandchild.
Do you have a pen? I'll tell you exactly what needs to be done.
Okay, let me. Oh, God. I should have got a pen.
That's all right. You can listen to listen to this on the replay or on the Facebook Live replay because we're coming up on our second break. But the first thing you have to do is you have to file a petition for de facto standing. You have to you have to file a petition to disclose the court records to you because it's confidential. And if you're going to be fighting for the children, you need to know what evidence the social workers are going to use against you. You need to file a 388 petition to have the children placed with you. And a lot of people disagree with me on this next one, but I believe you should file a petition for temporary and legal guardianship. I have found authority for that. People look at me crazy when I recommend that, but that's something that you can do. And depending on, what your relationship was with the children that are already been born, you might even be able to file a petition for what's called presumed parent status. And that'll give you equal rights as if you really were the biological parent in the case. Okay? So those are all of the things that you need to do. You mentioned, quickly, I'm going to tell you this, you mentioned that there's a child that hasn't been born.
Yes.
I would bet $1 that the social worker is going to plan on trying to take that child if and when the social worker finds out about it. You should go to court immediately and try to file a guardianship petition to give you temporary guardianship of that child and or permanent guardianship of that child. Okay? So don't miss out. Don't miss out on.
Do I do that in my county or do I do that in my daughter's location?
You do that wherever the children are.
People may give me wrong information. Okay, so I do it where the kids. Okay, all right.
Do it where the children are. You can do it in different counties. There are a lot of complications that could arise, but if you do it where the children are, you'll be safe. Okay, Lynn?
Okay, thank you.
Thank you. And if you need any assistance, give us a call at the office, 888-888-6582. We're going to take our next break. We'll be back taking more calls. This is The Secret.
ABC. And now, back to our show.
Okay, we're back. This is Attorney Vincent Davis. This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. I have a question from our Facebook Live group. Karina is asking me a question about whether there are going to be court hearings in juvenile dependency cases and whether they're going to reinstate visitation. I would like to tell you definitely or give you a definite answer, but that's something that's changing every week, county by county. Right now, in my opinion, they're going to have to give people their day in court. They can't keep continuing these cases out. I know we're in a pandemic, but, maybe we can do something like video conferencing hearings. At least let these people have their day in court before a judge. I learned recently from a juvenile court judicial officer that they are doing some hearings via WebEx, which is a video conferencing solution, but they're only doing, very limited hearings, emergency-based hearings. If this corona pandemic keeps going, for 2 or 3 months, we're going to have to do something, and maybe WebEx or Zoom is the solution. So thank God, I think there will be hearings and there will be solutions. We're right in the middle of this, and people are trying to work it out. And I know the judges and the court systems all across the county, all across the state, all across the country, they're trying to work things out. Okay, let's take our next call from... Is it Marlon from Los Angeles? Marlon, did you have a story to tell or question to ask?
Well, I guess I'll try the questions and might get to the story. So it was about the court that you just said. The federal courts were closed, and I was supposed to have a final evidentiary hearing in a case which would decide where custody and divorce separation were to be conducted.
Mm-hmm.
My attorney ended up getting the corona virus, and therefore the case was continued. I had email contact from Chambers on the 25th of March saying that he understood that I was passionate about the case, to stop emailing, and for us to wait for my counsel to recover before continuing. But on the 31st of March, I guess this became a story, but it's a question in here. He decided to deny opposing counsel's request for a tentative ruling and statement of decisions, and to make a final evidentiary hearing in chamber, revoking the planned final evidentiary hearing with witnesses and so on, and deciding that my U.S. citizen children were to be returned, as he frames it, to Norway and handed over to opposing counsel in front of the closed courthouse on the 2nd of April. Now, my question would be, I wasn't served, I wasn't told, I was CC'd in as the opposing counsel was trying to email my attorney, who they knew had been inoperable since the 13th of or 16th of March, and I have had my constitutional right to an evidentiary hearing terminated based on this coronavirus. So my question to you, are you aware of that being unconstitutional, yes or no? B, is it possible to sue opposing counsel for malpractice in the sense that they participated in bad tactics during litigation by doing what I just said right now? The other question I have for you...
Hold on, let me answer those two before I forget them.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yes.
Is this a case in federal court, international child custody dispute?
This is a international Hague case where my spouse, 4 months after abandoning... Hold on,
I get it. And the case is in federal court, right?
It was in state court. Well, here's the thing. They filed under seal in federal court for an arrest warrant for me in December, and they were refused. Then they filed again in state court claiming they never filed it for. It's called judges shopping, a redacted version, and they got it. Then I filed to remove it to federal court claiming civil rights violations, since I cannot go to that country, and you will indefinitely terminate my parental rights if you were to decide. Okay,
Marlon, but just tell me, is the case in state or federal court?
Now it's in federal, but it's
okay. Hold on.
I need to have an appellate judge.
Okay, so let me answer your questions. Before I answer your questions, I should tell you this: you should look up a case, international child custody dispute under the Hague Convention, called Papakosmas versus Papakosmas, and yours truly was the trial attorney and the appellate attorney in the Ninth Circuit, and we won on both. It lays out the law and the analysis. And maybe there may have been one since, but at that time it was like the first case out of this district regarding, first modern case regarding international child custody disputes. To answer your question, in my opinion, my humble opinion, since we're in the middle of a pandemic, your rights, your constitutional rights, have not been violated, especially where your attorney is sick. And this thing is killing people. So you're going to have to wait for your attorney to get back on board. Now, that may be a long time, unfortunately, but that's just the way. Oh, he's back? Oh, great. Great. I'm glad to hear that.
He has his legal counsel for me. You need to get a real attorney, and I need to get legal advice myself. This was unconstitutional. Paul Siegelman, who's an attorney, appellate attorney, has also confirmed that once you have in a Hague setting, which does not decide custody, so to speak. It decides which jurisdiction will have custody by taking into consideration what was the habitual residence of the children the 6 months prior to the alleged, notice the word alleged, child abduction.
Hey, Marlon. Marlon, I'm going to have to respectfully disagree with you because I've done the Hague case. I've done it in trial, and I've done it in an appellate case in the Ninth Circuit.
Correct.
The best thing you can do is read that case, Papakosmas versus Papakosmas. Just read it, and then it may give you information that you're looking for. Hague international custody disputes do decide custody. They just don't decide jurisdiction. Marlon, I want to thank you for calling and keep listening. Let's take our next case quickly. Charnel from San Diego. Charnel.
Yes, hi, how are you?
Good. How are you? Did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Just a question. So, I was supposed to have a hearing for the jurisdiction disposition on the 2nd. It was postponed due to the virus, and I was able to obtain the report from my social worker, and her recommendation was that my kids stay in custody and while I take my classes, but there was a lot of information that was omitted. So my question is, Because I feel like the judge takes the recommendation of the social worker majority of the time.
Well, let me ask you something. In San Diego County, I think they have 3 juvenile courts. Which one are you in? Are you in Meadowlark, El Cajon, or down in South County?
El Cajon.
Okay, you're in El Cajon. And that's Judge, well, I won't say his name, but you have a male judge out there, right?
Yes.
Okay. In my experience, that particular judge is very fair. He's very experienced. He's very knowledgeable about the law. What I would suggest is you contact your court-appointed attorney or your private attorney and use this time for the delay to beef up your case, beef up the information for your trials, for the trial, beef up the information for the witnesses, beef up the information for your participation in programs. You know, in some cases, and I'm not saying your case is one of these, but in a drug case, if you have a long history of testing before the disposition hearing, that gives you, and testing clean, that gives you a leg up on the social worker, because the social worker's burden to keep the children away from you at the disposition hearing is extremely high. They have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that you're a substantial danger to the child, and they have to prove by clear and convincing evidence that there are no less restrictive alternatives other than placing the children outside your home. So use this time, time to get prepared and get things together. I have a case that was continued till June in Alameda County, and on Monday morning, my client and I are meeting via, I think, video chat or phone, and we're going to use the time, maybe 45 minutes to an hour every day, to go over the case, to prepare. And when we walk into that courtroom, we're going to be so prepared that, you know, the odds are going to be with us that we're going to win that case. So that's what I think that you and your attorney should do, Charnel. Charnel, I want to thank you for calling and keep listening to the show. All right, we're going to have to take our third commercial break. This is The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. Stay with us because we have several more calls to take. Thank you.
You're listening now. Back to our show.
Okay, we're back. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. Let's take our next call from Christine in Los Angeles. Christine, did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Yes, I was calling. How are you doing this blessed evening, Mr. Davis?
Trying to stay safe. You know, we're in some very strange pandemic times.
Yes, we are. I met you. This is Miss Chisholm. I've been following you now for 5 years. I've been dealing with the DCFS. So,
oh my goodness. Did you have a question or a story tonight?
Well, a little bit of both. I'm still fighting to get my 3 children back. The one, my 14-year-old at the time, he's 14 now, and he battles with Down syndrome, you know, and he really been trying to get to me and everything, and I just filed a 388 back in November. I went to court in February, and at this time in February, I didn't really get no say, so, you know, they just came in and she just ordered me telephone phonic, you know, once a week or so and closed my case back out, you know.
Are the kids in guardianship with someone?
Yeah, they're with my niece.
Do you get along with your niece?
No, not since she had my kids, you know. Since she had got my kids, you know, the money, they pay them good. There's no education or anything, you know.
They sure do.
So she, like, separated my kids from the family and everything, you know.
You know, in order for you to get some, you know, the kids back, you're going to probably have to have a strategic step-up plan with you making sure that you've done everything that the court ordered at the disposition hearing and making sure that you have had more quality visits. Now, one of the things in cases like this, I advise people, after you make sure you've done all the services, to go to court and ask for a step-up visitation plan, and then file another 388 to get the children back after some time. And, you know, it's been shown that the visits are going good. So that's what I think that you should do, If you'd like more details on how to do this, give me a call at my office, 888-888-6582. And there's somebody who will be answering calls tomorrow so they can set up an appointment for you and I to speak during the week. Because, I'm not going anywhere. I'm staying at home. Christina, thank you for calling. Thank you for calling and keep listening. Okay, let's take another call from, is it Ernest from Los Angeles?
Hello.
Hi, this is Attorney Vincent Davis. Did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Both, basically.
Okay, go ahead.
Well, I am a former social worker from LA County DCFS.
Really? Okay.
Yes.
How many years?
And I was there about 5 years.
Okay. What office were you in?
Well, I started in the Chatsworth office, and then I transferred to the Water Ridge office, and then I also worked in Torrance.
Okay, so you know where offices are. So what's going on? Do you have a CPS or DCFS case right now?
No. Basically, I was terminated for whistleblowing on the corruption in the offices.
When were you terminated?
2012.
Did you get an attorney and try to go after the department?
I tried. Actually, the union had represented me through I appealed the termination, and we took it all the way up to the Civil Service Commission. The union represented me.
You didn't try to sue them for a wrongful termination?
I wanted to. I couldn't. Now, by that time, well, it's a long story, but we took it to the Civil Service Commission, and they upheld the termination. The union represented me, and after that, the union wouldn't sue them. They said, it costs too much money. So I went to a bunch of attorneys, and they none of them would take it on a contingency basis.
Right.
I had lost my income at that point, and the ones that would take it on a fee-based situation would cost too much.
Right. Well, tell me some of the corruption allegations that you alleged.
Well, they were actually. It was basically retaliation because at first I started complaining within the department of certain situations. Like first it started with my supervisor, and then they wouldn't do anything about that, and that just went on and on and on. And then I transferred. That's when I was in Chatsworth, and then I transferred to the Water Ridge.
But you're not telling me anything specific, like, did you just?
I'm going to get into the specifics
because we don't have enough time. A lot of time. This show ends at 9.
Okay, don't have a lot of. Yeah, that's a long story. Basically, now things got more horrendous. They started forcing me to place dangerous placements.
Okay, I don't know what that means.
Well, I had one case specifically. He was a teenager, just like 17, 18 years old. He was partially retarded. He had several mental problems, and he was very violent. And they wanted me to place him in a single foster mother's home. And I was telling him that he was too violent. He needs to be in, he needs to have a higher level of care.
Hey, Ernst, let me ask you this. Would you be willing to talk to me off the air? Because I'm interested in your story, and it's long, I can tell, but we only have about a few minutes left in the show. Would you mind giving me a call after, say, 12 o'clock tomorrow and making an appointment with the secretary that answers?
Okay, sure.
My number is 888-888-6582. 888-888-6582. Okay?
You said 888.
888-6582.
888-6582.
Right. 888-888-6582. Ernst, thank you for calling. Keep listening. And I hope to talk to you tomorrow. Okay, we're coming down. Let's take one last call. Can't read the board clearly. How about Janet from LA? Janet.
Hi, how are you doing?
Good.
I wish you happy early Eastern.
Well, thank you very much. Did you have a story to tell or a question to ask?
Yeah, it's a 2 hours, twice a week visitation at a neutral setting, and they don't let me out of the building of their residence. So basically, I'm trying to have a successful and cooperative visitation, and they're trying to make my visitations not smooth.
Okay. Have you talked to your attorney about this?
No, because I don't have an attorney at the moment.
Well, wait a minute.
So,
do you have a DCFS case here in Los Angeles County?
The DCFS closed. Now it's in a family law case.
Okay. You have a family law case. Child's been placed with the father?
The kids are with the father, and then it's until June 25th is the court. And I think with this pandemic, it's going to be extended.
Yeah, you're probably right, unfortunately. But Janet, this is what you have to do. If you're going to try to change a custody and visitation order from the juvenile court, you're going to have to get an attorney, in my opinion, to help you do that. There's some specific legal and evidentiary requirements that you're going to have to meet if you want to try to change custody and visitation. Okay, so that should what you should be doing next week, trying to find the right person to represent you in the case coming up in June, even though it's probably going to be extended. Because, changing a custody order from the juvenile court can be a little tricky. Okay, Janet, I want to thank you for calling and keep listening to the show.
Thank you. I appreciate it. So change it at the family law instead of DCFS.
Yeah, you can't go back to DCFS. Your case is out.
Closed.
It's closed. It's over with.
Okay, the family law.
Yeah.
And when you say tricky, you mean like the DCFS, the children's court is much higher than the family law. So what makes it tricky? Can you clarify?
Yeah, there's some very specific laws and rules and evidentiary evidence that you need to change a juvenile dependency court custody and visitation order in the family law court. Okay? All right, thank you. Thank you, Janet. Folks, thank you for listening. This has been The Secret, How to Fight Child Protective Services and Win. Let's stay safe and let's physical distance. We'll see you next week on the radio.